I don't need you asking.
Are we there yet?
Yeah. Number 5, top 5 quarterbacks poised for a breakout in 2022. Number 5, Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, transferred in from USC. The small sample size has some good things, to think about Jackson Dart. But I think with Lane Kiffin in that offense, Jackson Dart could be poised for a breakout that year. And Ole Miss, I think, is a team that is. They might see a little bit of a dip, who knows, but I don't really think that they're going anywhere as far as being a team that's going to be tough to reckon with.
I mean, they're not going to go anywhere as long as Lane Kiffin's there. They're recruiting really well. They're one of the top portal getting teams. They've revamped the roster. Obviously, losing Matt Corral is a blow, and we saw, the step down that they took with
Altmaier,
Luke Altmaier. I actually thought there were some things to kind of like about him, but he's, it was obviously a precarious situation. You weren't expecting to play in the Sugar Bowl, especially that early on. But yeah, I mean, Jackson Dart feels like a guy we've talked a lot about, and if he can live up to as much talk as there's been, and in an offense like Ole Miss's, that's going to be probably some. A formula for success, because I think Kiffin's going to always have a guy back there who can pull the trigger pretty well. So, Jackson Dart at Ole Miss is very intriguing.
Yeah. Number 4, Brennan Armstrong of Virginia. This is you heard me mention how I think Tony Elliott is going to do well at Virginia. Virginia might be a team that takes a step forward. It's due in large part to the fact that they've got this guy coming back. And there are 3 ACC schools on this list, Jack alerted me to. But these are kind of the situations where there's not really competition, and these guys are going to be starters. You look around the country, there's a ton of either quarterback competitions or guys who I could put on this list. Like Caleb Williams could break out. Dude's already broken out. We already know about Caleb Williams. Mm-hmm. So, but Brennan Armstrong, this is one to watch kind of under the radar. Virginia might be better than a lot of people think.
Yeah, he's a good player. Like you said, the ACC, not the most competitive right now. I don't know how good Clemson's expecting to be next year, but, that's who we'll look at first. I mean, I know FSU's kind of slowly coming up as well, but no, Virginia's, with him coming back, that's a team that you have to look long and hard at entering next year for sure. He's a good player. And, like you said, the ACC is wide open.
Yeah. Number 3, Jordan Travis at Florida State. Another year as a starter. He was pretty much the whole offense last year, and he finally has some help, hopefully, at the wide receivers position as Florida State went heavy at that position, getting at least 3 guys and maybe another to fill out that roster. And some experienced guys, some with not so much, but more potential that wide receiver position. One of the ones that got cleared out in the Jimbo Willie Taggart kind of clear out. They wound up looking this year. Mike Norvell's like, well, who are my starting receivers? And their best one was Andrew Parchment, a transfer from Kansas of all places. So they were thin at that position, and I think that's going to help Jordan Travis, who we all know can run, but if he has some people to throw to, will be very, very lethal.
I mean, you know better than we would.
Yeah.
We watched them. I did not watch a ton of Florida State last year. No disrespect.
I mean, they weren't watching.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was not like it was appointment television by any means. But no, he's a great athlete, like you said. What are your expectations?
I'm expecting a bowl game.
Okay.
That's what I expect. If they got to, they were 1 game off of it, so that's what I expect, which is
Would
sad.
that make you happy?
No, I know. Happy, it would make me content. I would make me.
I did not realize he had 1,317 yards, 17 touchdowns in a couple of years. That's a little bit more of a dual threat guy than I realized.
Oh, he can run.
Yeah.
He can run, and he's got a good arm. Sometimes you just wonder, was that him throwing out there, or was the receiver just not there? So,
or were the cheerleaders catching it, or the band?
With Jordan Travis, I think the big question was, and they have to answer it, was it the receiver's fault? FSU seems to think it was the receiver's fault. They didn't have a lot of good players at that position, so we'll see what happens as they've rated the transfer portal. Number 2, I already know we know a lot about him, but Dylan Gabriel got hurt, essentially kind of lost his job. I think going into Oklahoma and Jeff Lebby's offense again will help people remember how good of a player he was in the spurts that we saw him.
Yeah, if there wasn't that connection, I don't know if I'd be as high on this move.
Yeah.
Not because of the player or anything. Dylan Gabriel is a really good player, but that's what puts it over the top is the fact that there's already a built-in connection, and you've seen it work and have success. And so I think that's what gets you most excited about it. And then the fact that you were, looking around the quarterback room before he announced his transfer and wondering, okay, so if Caleb Williams does leave, what in the world are we going to do? Because there's is an empty cupboard basically. So yeah, that was a big get for them. Obviously the writing felt like it was on the wall with Caleb Williams, but I think going and getting Dylan Gabriel is probably a better move than most people would have expected as far as an alternative plan to not having Williams. But yeah, I think the Oklahoma offense will be just fine. I mean, they do lose some really good players, but they've hit the transfer portal hard. They're recruiting well, and Brent Venables seems to have a good game plan going. So it's definitely a new era in Norman, but Dylan Gabriel is a good place to start off with.
Yeah. And number 1, Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. This is a guy who, in the spurts last year when he took over the starting job after De'Aaron King got hurt again, he really showed what he can do. And less than a year, really, of starting experience. But Tyler Van Dyke should be scaring the rest of the ACC, especially given that Mario Cristobal. I don't know how successful he'll be there because the biggest problem with Miami has not been the coach really in any regard. They haven't made some great decisions at that at times, but Mario Cristobal is going to, top down kind of organizationally run that team to where they will improve. I don't know how quickly and how fast, but Tyler Van Dyke, it's a good place to start. If I'm Mario Cristobal, I feel more comfortable taking that job knowing I've got a guy who can spin it like he can under center. Yeah,
I watched him quite a bit actually last year, and he's a good, solid player. He was better than I expected him to be out of the gates, and I don't know if I really had any sort of expectation, but I was like, oh, wow, he's a pretty good player the more I watched him, and was definitely one of their bright spots. I think Cristobal is going to do great there. There's just some guys, you just know they have that organizational structure, and they're not going to fall privy to the same types of, dumb mistakes that some new coaches fall into. I think he knows his role there. He knows how much power he's got, but he knows his place and he knows what they need to do. And they seem to be hard at work at trying to turn this thing around as quick as possible. So yeah, great quarterback to have to start things off with. And I think Cristobal and the Hurricanes will be a good match.
Let's go. I know we're up against the time. Matt McBriar just getting off of the work. Said now listen to his favorite regular show. Thank you. Mike wants to do possible top 5 for the future group of 5 schools poised to challenge for the playoff. Okay. Gregory saying that I want to see Paul have a top 5, you and Craig, Batman villains who need to make their own movie.
He's got the best rogues gallery of any character out there, easily.
From Lee Buttercup, Dart will be the second best Jackson next year after Jackson player spelled differently. And then also Lee Buttercup, unfair to give that Ole Miss coach a hard time for his Sugar Bowl performance. Kyler Murray would have done poorly against that Baylor defense and sacked 10 times. All right. Thank you. All right. I'm going to go home and
do a